This exercise is concerned with the documentation of the workstation that's used for placing clips on bundles of cards and then setting them aside into a container. The pictures across the top here illustrate the steps. One hand is used to grasp cards from a small metal bin. The other hand is used to grab paper clips from the bin on the other opposite side of the workstation. The hands come together, attaching the clips precisely to the corners of the cards, and then setting the cards aside into a third bin. Notice that as the cards are placed into that third bin, we alternate the position of the clips so that we maximize the number of cards and clips that we can put into that bin. Here's a formal statement of the work standard attaching. The goal here is to attach clips precisely to the corners of card bundles and place the cards with clips into the provided container, alternating right and left corners for space utilization. We're going to use the best standard time, which ultimately you're going to determine in another part of this exercise. The cards are what we refer to as 3x5 cards, or in metric land 7.5 by 12.5 centimeters. The clips are small springs clips. They have dimensions nominally of 3 centimeters by 2 centimeters by 1.5 centimeters. The handles extend 4 centimeters with a maximum opening of 1 centimeter. The workstation is a standing workbench. It's adjustable for a 5 percentile female stature through 95 percentile male stature, assuming average body proportions. The bench top we should be able to position the bench top 7.5 centimeters below elbow height so that we don't have to reach up to get into the bins. And the container dimensions, the containers are actually tapered. The top of the containers are 11.5 by 21.5 centimeters. The bottoms are 11 by 21 centimeters, and they're 7 centimeters high. Okay, and we're going to put a rolled edge in the top of it so we don't rub our hands or fingers on sharp edges as we reach into the bench. It doesn't specify the actual dimensions of the legs or the thickness of the workbench or the width and the height, so that's kind of up to us, and we'll probably just use a 1 by 2 meter bench top, 5 centimeters thick. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and start our the CAD part of this, which is going to be the documentation of the workstation. And I'm going to hide this section, and let's just show you what we want to end up with here, or at least part of it. Here's our bench top. Here's a 5 percentile female stick figure with reach hemispheres. Now in this case, I've got the elbows at the side of the body here, and the reach hemispheres then are based upon the reach distance from the elbow to the center of the hand for pinch purposes. And you may recall that when we're designing for pinch, we're only going to use 65% of the hand length. So that gives us an idea how far we can reach. And what we'll do is we'll construct a workbench. We'll show the reach limits for these hemispheres based on the elbows at the side of the body. We'll have our bins here and some cards and some clips. And if we look over here on the right side of the window, you can see a close-up view of the bins, bundles of cards, and the clips. Now, I'm not going to drag you through all the steps of this, and actually we'll provide you with some AutoCAD files that actually have card bundles in them, as well as the clips. So hopefully that'll save you some work. And we'll also give you a file with the 5 percentile female stature in it, but you'll have to generate your own for the 95 percentile. So hopefully this will get you going. So with that, let's go ahead and hide our pictures here. And I'm going to come over to the side here and launch AutoCAD. And we'll be working with AutoCAD for Mac 2022. but if you're working on a Windows machine, it's going to be very similar, especially if you use the command line. Okay, so I get the window popping up here, and if it queries this, we'll go ahead and go to, well, I guess we'll just go ahead and go File. Oops, okay, that's what I was waiting for. All right, we'll tell it we want a new window, and we'll go to the AutoCAD 3D drawing template, and go to Open. Now, for this exercise, actually, if you open yours, it'll probably open with the Layers window open, so I'll go ahead and click Layers. So you should end up with something that looks kind of like this. I'm going to move this up and in just a little bit so you'll be able to see any commands that go off the edge. So first thing, let's set our units to centimeters. So I'm just going to type units. And we'll go to the nearest millimeter, I guess, which will be 0.1 centimeter. And we'll come down here to where it says units, and we'll select centimeters. And we'll go ahead and take the defaults for everything else. All right, so now we're in centimeters. Let's see, what else do we need to do here to get started? Well, let's just go ahead and get started. And what we'll do, I'm going to kind of move my coordinate gizmo over to the side here so it's out of my way. And let's go ahead and create our stick figure for the 5 percentile female. So I'm going to create a new layer here, and I'll call it F5 for the female. And I'm going to put ELB down, meaning elbows down at the side of the body. DWN, how's that? Okay. All right, and then we will let's give that a little distinctive color. So we'll make that magenta. And I think with that we're good to go. Now it's helpful if you have your cheat sheet that we gave you previously with all the dimensions for the 5 percentile female stick figure. I'll put a link to it in the descriptive information for this video, so you can look it up later if you don't have it in front of you. But I can just start drawing anywhere. Remember, AutoCAD works best if we just work in relative units. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start out using the polyline. Actually, I'm going to use the regular line tool, and we can join these later, but you'll see why. Now, this will be a little bit easier if I start out putting this in the ortho mode. So if you come down to the bottom here, find these two lines at right angle, and if you click on that, that should pop this into the ortho mode. I'll go ahead and click to start my first point, and we'll start putting a offset, which we've been using 10 centimeters as the distance between the edge of the bench and the links that form the vertical parts of the stick figure. So we'll go ahead and put 10. And then our next line will come up, and that will go from the distance from the foot to the midpoint between the shoulders, which, if my memory serves me right, is 123 centimeters. We'll go 1, 2, 3. And then, well, I can't see it off the top, so I'm going to scroll down here a little bit. There we go. And I'll come out here. Now I want the distance from the midpoint between the shoulders to the right shoulder, and that'll be 19.4 centimeters. 19.4. All right, and then I want my elbow to come down now. So the distance from the elbow to the, from the shoulder to the elbow, same as the elbow to the shoulder, is going to be 28 centimeters. Okay, and then we'll go forward, and if you look again at the sheet I gave you earlier, it actually has elbow to pinch distance as 32.5 centimeters. And I'll type return to tell I'm done. So there's my stick figure, and just like we've created before, except it's slightly different in that the elbows here at the side of the body. And we'll go ahead and create our reach hemispheres the same way we've done previously. I'll start out by getting the circle tool. I'll draw a circle around the point of rotation here, which in this case is the elbow. And I've got my snap turned on for object snap, so it goes to endpoints. And there's my elbow. Now, when we did this before, we were doing this at shoulder height, so we're actually able to infer intersections with this line that goes between the midpoint of the between the shoulders to one shoulder. In this case, we're in different planes, so I'm going to put a line here from the elbow to, I'll just make it bring it out here so it crosses the this circle. And what I'm going to now do is use my trim tool, just TR I think does it. And all I gotta do is click on this and it'll chop off everything that's outside the limits, so that's fine. And now I don't need this line that I used to define the area I wanted to trim off, so I'll just erase that. And now I'm left with this 90-degree arc, which you'll recall we use the revolve tool to actually create the hemisphere. So I'll type revolve, something like this. Okay, select the object, type return, select the axis of rotation. We'll go from the middle of the grip to the elbow, and just come back and type 360. Oops, I think I typed 36 instead of 360. I'll just type undo to undo that. We'll do it again. Revolve. Okay. Select my arc. Again, my endpoint here and my elbow. Alright, now we'll do this again. We'll type 360. Okay, now it closes the hemisphere. And you can see it still has that arc on there, which we don't need, so I'll select that and type erase, or E for erase. Okay, so there's one arm and one hemisphere. Now, you'll notice that I created a layer for this, but I went ahead and started constructing this in the 0 layer. So I can fix that. Let's just circle everything with a lasso tool. I think I got it all. And I'll come down here to my properties window and just tell it I want to move that to the elbow, and you can see it turns it pink. And now return. And now let's come up here and make sure that I've got the elbow layer active. Or I'm sorry, the 5% top female. And I think I must have accidentally erased that. So let's type U for undo. There it is. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so I got it in the correct layer. So let's just come back up here now and select. Okay. So sometimes, you make mistakes as you do this, and there's so many commands in AutoCAD for any exercise. It's almost impossible to go through this without making some mistakes. So don't be alarmed. You can always use undo and back up to the last place where everything seemed to be under control. Okay, I'm going to do one more thing. You may recall we did this previously, and I'm going to come down here to transparency. And we can do this by object. Let me select my hemisphere first. And transparency by object. And let's change that to maybe like 50%. So that enables us to kind of see through there. The other thing let's do, we can select all of our links here. And since I created these as lines rather than a polyline, I'll have to select them individually. And I want to make these lines a little thicker so they show up better. So down here where it says line weight, we'll go ahead and take 0.35. And I'll turn on my line thickness display down here at the bottom. And that's down here at the bottom in case you didn't notice. And that's sometimes kind of frustrating because you set the line thicknesses and then it seems like nothing happens. And you got to remember to turn on the display line weight feature. I have no idea why that's the default for that is off. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. So now let's go ahead and create the left side. And recall we did this by using the copy command. So I'm going to copy. And I'll start out by putting a left shoulder on this, and I could just look up the dimension and make another line, but it's just as quick to copy this. So I'll select that object, select my anchor point as the right shoulder. I'll just move that point to the center, and voila, I've got a line between the center and the left shoulder. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do copy again, so I'll just type spacebar to repeat that command. This time I'll select the hemisphere. I'll select the line representing the arm and the lower arm, and the line representing the upper arm. Return. I'll use my right shoulder as the base point, and I will just move to the left shoulder as my second point, and type return until I'm done. And now I've got my 5 percentile female. Okay, so I'm going to now, I'm going to make this a block, so I'll be able to insert it in other drawings. And we'll talk about inserting this in another drawing in just a minute. So, but let's just go ahead and make it a block just to refresh the procedure for doing that. So what I'll do is I'm going to use wblock so I can save it as an external file. So wblock, as soon as I type W, that pops up as the default. And the first thing we want to do is select the drawing object. We'll use select objects, and I'll just use the lasso tool. Somehow this seems to take more border control than or more concentration than what I'd like to admit. Okay, so I got everything selected. Return till I'm done selecting objects. Now make sure you have this button click that says retain objects, because that will make it easier to disassemble this when you insert it into another drawing. Make sure that we have centimeters, or that at least it's consistent with the way we define the drawing units for our drawing when we started. And then the next thing is to pick the base point that we'll use for insertion. And we use this 10 centimeter reference offset line as kind of our reference point. So I'm just going to come down here and click on that. And now it looks like we're good to go. So I'll click this, and it says okay, save this, and I'll just give this a name of F5. Oops. Okay, F5. And we'll say let's do this arm AMDWN. So it tells that we got it down, and it's for a pinch, PNCH. Okay, and I'll save that, and now it will be available to insert into another drawing. Now, I could continue with the bench from here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start over, because I want to work through the process of bringing this into another drawing in a way that enables us to disassemble this and do our reach limits on the work surface. So I'm going to end the video here, and then I'll restart the next video.